Just make sure you can hear everything okay. Maybe want to move that just a little bit closer.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So wow, this is like
We're just a host, so mostly
sensitive.
you're gonna hear from Rich a lot. I just chime in once in a while.
is this the mic here?
That's the mic.
Yeah. It's a really good mic.
Yeah. It's actually, yeah.
It's not pro quality mics.
Can I turn the top of this down?
Yep.
Oh yeah. This is legit, man.
Everybody talking to your mic.
Yep.
Talking
1, 2, 3.
into the mic.
1, 2,
I need to
3.
be closer.
Yeah. Get
Just a little
closer.
tiny bit. Yeah. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Welcome. 1, 2, 3.
Testing. How's that sound? Better?
I mean, I see it moving. So
Yeah, it's better.
Do I need to be closer?
I
It's just a
think
little bit
you're
of an
good.
echo.
I think you're okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hello.
Yeah, yours is fine.
What about mine now?
It is better.
I feel like yours needs to be a little higher,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
What is he? He's yellow.
He's yellow.
Okay.
How about now?
All right, try now.
I'm talking like this.
That's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that is better.
Does this pick up if I'm looking this way? If I'm like,
Yeah.
because I'm looking at you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I can hear it picking up this.
Yeah, and it's
It's
crazy.
crazy, right?
It's very, very sensitive.
You hear a bunch of things I don't want to hear. No, just,
Now that'll all get filtered out.
I would recommend putting your phones on silent.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But, you know, we keep it casual. It's not like, we're not Joe Rogan here, so.
Although he was smoking up with Elon Musk, so
Yeah.
I mean it's pretty casual.
Yeah,
already.
where's the whiskey and cigars, guys?
That's the second one.
That's the after dark.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the R-rated podcast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're only allowed 2 F words, so to keep it clean. So,
All right, let's roll.
we hit record.
Oh, that would help. But we're ready for everything?
I'm good.
So that's like connected to the computer.
No.
That's cool.
It is, but I decided we're just gonna use the SD card instead of
nice.
complicate things with
Okay.
the computer.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing they got there.
Yeah. So once the SD card's out, you know, all this I'm gonna send to my editor. And he'll fix it up. I've done it before, but
Yeah.
I don't have more time for it. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep, we're recording.
Okay. All right, 3, 2, 1. We're back and better than ever. Welcome to the Next Level Law Podcast. I'm Richard Perillo, and I'm joined, as always, with Arash Eskandari. This week's guest is Vincent Massaro. Vincent is a personal injury attorney from Newport Richey, Florida, and handles cases across the state of Florida. Today's episode is sponsored by Vertical 10. Vertical 10 helps law firms scale by building and managing high-performing digital marketing campaigns, from SEO and Google ads to meta advertising. Vertical 10 helps turn online visibility into a steady stream of signed clients. Visit vertical10.com for more information. That's vertical, the number 10.com for more information on how to scale your business today. If you enjoy the podcast, please follow and subscribe on all the major platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and rate us 5 stars. Dropping a 1 or 2 sentence review really helps us with Apple and Spotify, and we really appreciate the support of our listeners. We're joined today by Vincent Massaro of Massaro Law in Land O'Lakes, Florida. Welcome, Vincent, to the Next Level Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great. We're pleased to have Vincent on this afternoon because Vincent brings a fearless approach to personal injury law and has extensive experience on both the plaintiff and defense side of the personal injury legal spectrum. So, welcome, Arash. Welcome back. It's glad to have this up and running again. It's been a little bit, but you know, we're very honored to have Vincent with us, and it's a special day because we're in the new studio, and you know, Vincent's our first guest in this new studio. A lot of times we do Zoom, but yeah, with this new studio, it's beautiful. It works. Yeah, we're really honored to have you here, Vincent. You know, Arash, again, you know,
Yeah,
welcome.
glad to get it back up and running, and the studio was just awesome. Sound is amazing. Yeah, we got to keep this going.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Vince, we always like to start with what motivated you to get into the legal profession, and specifically like PI, and then, kind of just talk us through your career up to this point. But, where we really like to start is, that motivation where you were really, kind of deciding what you wanted to do with life, and then,
Yeah.
the legal field, and then, specifically PI.
Well, I first wanted to be like a archaeologist because after I saw the Indiana Jones movies,
Okay.
then I pivoted into math and engineering, but somehow I became a lawyer. So I'm not really sure what happened there. But I probably when I was in, do I need to be closer? You think?
Yeah, I think so.
When I was in high school, I did this volunteer organization where I actually represented kids in a diversion program, and I got real excited to be in like this mock courtroom thing. I had that experience, and that really set me on a course where I kind of abandoned all the math and stuff. Instead of those higher level classes, I ended up taking theater as my electives.
Okay.
In case you were wondering, I was voted most theatrical in my high school class.
Nice, nice.
So no one else really knows that. So keep it on the down low. But and then I just from there I wanted to do it. But of course, law school and all that is nothing like what you think it's gonna be.
Okay.
So that was kind of disappointing. But at the end of it, you're still a lawyer, so that's good.
Oh, yeah, walk us a little bit through kind of like what your expectations were going into law school, and then kind of what the reality was.
Well, everyone teaching in law school really wouldn't make much of a good lawyer in terms of what I thought would be a good lawyer. Going to court, advocating for people. Most of these professors are they're very book smart, and they're very intelligent, and they can write well and everything else, but they're not shooting off the hip, going into court, advocating for clients. You put a client in front of them, I don't know they know how to speak to them, kind of thing.
Okay.
Just because they're very they're very intelligent, more intelligent than I am, right? They're more intelligent than most lawyers, but they're not teaching to, hey, you want to be a trial lawyer, go do this, that kind of thing. There's certain schools that cater to that, but I didn't go to a school like that. I went to Florida, and Stetson was more the trial school.
Okay.
So, but at the end of the day, when I'm doing my job, I just like helping people, and I think that's what keeps you going as a lawyer, is not necessarily the law, because the law, you can enjoy it and whatever, but I think the people aspect is why I enjoy what I do, and for that really a personal injury attorney, and there's certain other types of law where you're really dealing a lot with clients, is very enjoyable. And I don't think I realized that when I started this path, like when I thought I wanted to be a lawyer and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You have all these preconceived notions, but then when you do it, you actually realize what you like about it.
Okay. Was it always, when you were coming up, was it always going to be personal injury, or were you like, oh, I could do criminal, I could do estate planning, I could do family, or was personal injury like a calling for you?
I feel like it was a calling because, I always saw those billboards as a young kid, and everyone else would kind of scoff at them and be like, oh, look, another billboard. I'm like, man, that guy looks like he's helping people.
Right.
And I like the idea of someone's getting hurt, someone's getting screwed over by a power structure that's bigger than them, and then you have this lawyer, this one guy, or a team of lawyers that's helping that person out, that victim of an injury or an accident. I just like that idea of going up against the man and fighting for people.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the one word that comes to mind, and Vincent, we've known each other for quite a while, and I'm going to bring this up, a little bit later too, is fearless. And I would imagine you have to be fearless when you're taking on, XYZ insurance company, a large trucking conglomerate. You're representing, one or two people. You don't have the power of a Morgan & Morgan behind you. It's you and your team. You have to be fearless when you're in the courtroom and you're litigating on a 7-figure case where there's been, bodily injury, potentially death, something like that. Can you talk us through a little bit about, kind of where that came from and why that's such an advantage for you? Because we talk with a lot of lawyers, and Arash will back this up. They're afraid to litigate, right? I mean, they're afraid to litigate. It's just not comfortable for them. you're a seasoned litigator on both sides. So can you kind of talk us a little bit about how, that's not only not an issue for you, it's something that you enjoy doing?
Well, I would say that sometimes I think if you don't think about it, it makes it easier.
Okay.
But for me, there's definitely been, if I look back at the different things that I've done or people I've gone up against, it's filled with fearful encounters where I'm like, oh God, this guy's gonna destroy me, or I'm gonna lose this case, or what did I get myself into? I've had those things happen so many times.
Okay.
That at this point, what you realize is there's always an end, there's always a way to pull a victory out, there's always a way through a problem, just because you've dealt with it at some point, at some level, or you know the guy who did it, and you can call him on the phone. So after having those experiences, it becomes a situation where if you're in your lane for the most part, and you're doing something that you've done before, it's okay to go a little bit outside your comfort zone because you've got that wealth of experience. So for me, I may take a case that myself 5 years ago would have never touched, never taken. It would have been crazy to take it. Case that looks like a clear loser and a waste of time, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take that case because I know how to take it and win with it. Whereas before I didn't, because I didn't have the experience.
Right.
But there's nothing to worry about because you know what you're getting yourself into.
Gotcha.
I think it comes down to a lot of the times. And it helps if you have if you're on the right side of things, because you get that righteous indignation and you're like, these insurance companies are totally wrong. And what happens though is that as a younger lawyer going up against insurance companies or going up more experienced lawyers, they kind of brainwash you into thinking, oh, well, this case isn't worth anything. Your client's not really hurt. This isn't the best set of facts that you could have. You're going to lose this case. And you start to convince yourself that it's true. And then, but you end up negotiating against yourself instead of just keeping pushing forward. So after you've had some of those victories where you've overcome that negative talk of the other side or that propaganda, basically, you realize that they're just trying to get inside your head. And it's an institutional problem. The insurance company's trying to get inside your head. The whole industry of insurance is trying to get inside your head. You know what I mean? One of the most helpful things that another lawyer told me was that whatever you think your case is worth, just double it and start there, or triple it and start there, which seems like an arbitrary thing, but guess what the insurance company is doing? They're taking what they should pay and they're cutting it in half, or they're cutting it by 60%.
Right.
Because there's somebody out there, for whatever reason, client wants to settle, or attorney encouraging the client to settle, or whatever, that they're just taking that money and they're walking away with it. And over time, as an insurance company, you're gonna make money consistently lowballing people.
Right.
It's a good business model.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, speaking of insurance, you call yourself an insurance insider, right? So walk us through what that actually means for someone that's evaluating an offer from an adjuster.
Yeah, so you never take the first offer. So I used to work for an insurance company. I worked for Geico in-house for 6.5 years, and I did 2 different types of things for them. I was an attorney handling what are called first-party cases, which were property damage cases between an insured, a customer, and the insurance company. And then I handled the bodily injury cases, the defensive personal injury cases. But the first few years that I was there doing those other cases, I had access to a lot of corporate higher-ups at the insurance company. When you're a line attorney at an insurance company going against Morgan & Morgan or Fairfax, you just kind of stay in your lane, you talk to the adjuster, you talk to your boss, and that's kind of it. But initially what I had is I was talking to managers and vice presidents of the company, the bean counters, so to speak, on a regular basis. And those, and the reason for that is because the global exposure for these cases that we were handling was very large. The individual case wasn't worth a lot of money, but there were thousands and thousands of cases, so there was a big ticket item for the insurance company. But in those conversations, you start to understand how an insurance company evaluates a case. And it's not that you agree with it, but you understand the reason that they're offering this amount of money on this case is because of this. The other thing can happen too when you can as a lawyer, you can end up getting a windfall from an insurance company because the insurance company decided they want to clear the decks and they don't care if they're going to overpay on this case because they just want to get rid of it, and that's a business decision that they make. So you may get, as a lawyer, as a client, you may just have a lucky day because the insurance company wants to settle your case and you have no control over that. But you've got, as on this side, you've got to know how to read those tea leaves, how to ask the right questions, how to navigate between the adjusters and their management at the right time of the year, at the quarters, and kind of also getting a lay of the land from speaking to other lawyers so that you know how to appropriately navigate your case. For example, I think it was 2025, we had heard that one insurance company in particular was just drawing a hard line in the sand, and they were fighting and litigating every case with everything they had, just to send a message. So we knew now if we had those cases coming in that we had to take a different approach. Then you have a company, on the other end of things where they're paying stuff that they shouldn't even be paying. So we're pushing those cases harder because we know, well, we're gonna get paid. Now, 6 months from now, it might be a different situation.
Right.
And those things change all the time. You get new management, new CEOs, whatever. So you've gotta keep an eye on that. But that's what when that's an insurance company insider, that's what that means. Whereas if you've never worked in that field, you don't necessarily know what questions to ask or what things may be happening, but you don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if I go out on a date with a beautiful girl and she likes me, it could be because who knows what the reason is. I don't know what the reason. I got lucky, but that you can't say that you got lucky and that's your business strategy. You have to know what's actually happening behind the scenes. You have to know, is it because I wore this really cool shirt, or is it because I took her to this restaurant? You got to figure out what the reason is, not just be like, well, I'm great with girls. Like, no, you may not be. You know what I mean?
Right.
She could be doing this as a favor because she feels sorry for you. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to give you quite an advantage over other PI lawyers, since you've had that experience working with insurance companies. So, I mean, I wanted to get to the part where you decided to leave the firm and start your solo practice, because as a business owner myself, it's terrifying, right? I mean, when you make that jump, make that leap. So what made you want to do it, and how did you feel like this was the right time to do it?
I think that I've always had a problem with authority, I think. So
seems to be a lot of business owners.
That's been me my whole life.
Yeah.
That seems to be a big problem. Yeah, that's a common trait.
Yeah,
I think
seems to be. Yeah.
What's ironic about that is I've always been a good employee. Like at the end of the day, I'm a yes sir, no sir kind of guy.
Yeah, same.
But what ended up happening to me at my previous jobs, especially at Geico, because Geico was very corporate, is that I was the guy who just did whatever. Like a buddy of mine used to joke around, and we would say we're the doers, because doers do. Oh, what do we got to do that? Okay, we're just going to do it. And then there'd be other people who didn't do what they were told to do, and then 6 months later they were a manager.
Exactly.
It was unbelievable. It was like something out of Office Space or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent 16 years working at a law firm, and I never questioned anything. I mean, I brought my ideas to the table, which were rejected, and then a year later they were implemented, and all of a sudden it wasn't my idea anymore.
Exactly.
And I was like, this is not working, because I mean, all these people who are doing nothing, even if they're not getting promoted or whatever, they're still there and they're doing half the work I'm doing, and it just seems like they just throw more work at me.
Yep.
And that's when I decided I had to do something for myself, because it's making somebody else rich, and working 80-hour weeks and Saturdays, Sundays, it didn't matter,
Right.
So I mean, it was scary, but that was my motivator. And also the pride of having your own thing, having your own business and knowing you created something. It's that you can't put a price on.
I agree, man. And the thing that's still disorienting for me is that I find myself making decisions, whether it's about clients or cases or the business, but I'm making them within a paradigm that I would have as an employee. So if I've been an employee for 20 years, let's say, now I'm making decisions, but I don't want to mess this up. But then I'm like, wait a second, who am I afraid of messing this up for? I'm the guy, all right? I'm the asshole, like, you know what I mean, so to speak. So but the thing is, it's very freeing to realize that, hey, you know what, if I want to represent this client that is, maybe if it wasn't my practice and the boss assigned me this case and it was super annoying, or the case was difficult or whatever, I would be like, oh man, I can't believe I got to do this. But if I see something and I want to do something, I can do it. It's my choice. And at the end of the day, even if you make a bad decision or you regret a decision, you're the guy who did it. So it's almost like you've got no one but yourself to blame, and there's no appeal to, well, this person made me do it, or I have to do it for this person so that I don't piss this person off, all those politics and stuff.
Yeah.
But it takes a minute to break out of that framework, because if you've been doing it that way for 20 years, then your brain, I think, or at least for me, this is my experience, I need something to grab onto, because I never had to do it myself within my own framework.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been challenging, and I would say that you've been like, I would fire and rehire myself like many times in a day, because in the beginning I was the sole employer and sole employee. I'm like, this guy's terrible, man. We got to get rid of him. And I joke around with the girls now. I'm like, I'm the lowest performing employee here, so you guys are doing a great job. I'm the weakest link. You know what I mean?
Well, they always say hire people that are smarter than you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is why we work together, and that's, I mean, I take that as a compliment right now, although I'll say this, if I can turn on my phone, I'm happy. So, I let the experts handle that. But no, I appreciate you saying that. I'm gonna take that as as a indirect compliment, and I'm gonna remind you of that come bonus time.
I think he was talking about somebody else that works for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are bringing on new people, but for now, I'm up at the top of the list. I think
true.
How many, 3 years running Employee of the Week? So something.
Yeah.
I love that.
It just keeps getting it.
Yeah. So there's no money. I just get a new plaque. I just get another month added onto the plaque.
But good lunches.
Yeah. So exactly. But no, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things too where. When you first started, and again, this is kind of full disclosure, Vincent has used Vertical 10 as his digital marketing agency, and just kind of a funny aside, when you and I first talked and we met, the building that we are now in caught on fire. And we had to make an emergency exit. There was a literal fire. It wasn't just smoke. And
we were trauma bonded forever.
Yes, yeah. And I was like, well, this is a new one on a meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, kind of walk us through a little bit of some of the thoughts you had about doing some marketing that was kind of out of your area of expertise. And the one thing always talking with you is, kind of going with the fearless. I'm not afraid to try new things. If it works, great. Then we're going to keep hammering it. If it doesn't, then we'll switch gears. But kind of talk to us a little bit about why you looked at digital marketing as the biggest helping factor in really scaling your firm, because you started when we first talked during the fire, you were coming from another law firm where you were an employee, and there has to be some type of trepidation dipping your foot into that into that new pool. So if kind of talk to us a little bit about how you worked through that, and then and I've joked with you since over a year ago, we'll be working in the building with your name on it someday. And that's not just me being, just joking around. Like, that's something that, Arash and I've been doing this for long enough that, like, we can see who has the, what would you say, the right stuff to really, grow and scale a firm, and who just operates out of, I just don't want to lose my entire, business this month. And you what we really respect from you is, you're like, you know, hey, if I go a month and I've spent, you know, X number of dollars and I haven't seen a return, I know that, you know, a couple weeks later, like kind of like what we talked about,
Yep.
there's going to be, you know,
It
some
works.
serious case revenue coming in because I've been doing this long enough and I trust in the process. But kind of go back to the beginning and talk to us about like where your mindset was initially when we first, you know, when we first met and we decided to, you know, to partner together with your marketing.
Yeah, so you guys have been awesome, and would not be here without you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I truly mean that. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast, but like really, it's been a heck of a thing, and I didn't think it was going to work. That's the other thing.
That's
So-
what I wanted you. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I wanted you to say. Like because
So-
you've told me that many times. You come
Yeah.
up and say, "I didn't think this was going to work," but and then
Right. So what ends up happening when you do your own thing like this, there's the thing obviously is how are you going to get cases? Everyone who thinks that you're going to fail is like, how the hell is this guy going to get cases?
Right.
Because what people do sometimes is they take their book and they bring it onto their new firm. And I made a decision in an agreement with my old boss that I was not going to do that. And it was because at the end of the day, it was the best thing for the clients. And obviously it's the client's choice and this, that, and the other, but we were not, what was best for the clients is we were not going to get into a contest and a drag out fight over who's going to take what or whatever. I just didn't want to do that for my own sake and the client's sake and everything else. But then you got to start from zero. Right, which is exciting. So I knew that I needed to get digital marketing and the website, and at a minimum I knew I needed a website and I needed ads. But that's all I knew. And the other source of marketing that I was trying to get was the referrals from doctors and
Right.
community members and networking and everything. What I found though is that it's not that those things don't work, those other things, those conventional things, but they don't work as well. And also billboards, let's put that all in the same category. It's not that they don't
It's your
work,
pet peeve. Yeah.
but they don't
When
work.
I heard you were going to do a billboard, I came right to your office.
You did, yeah, you did.
I was like, please don't do this.
I love it, I love
mean,
it.
Just give me the money. Why don't you just give me the money?
Yeah.
I put them in a category because they're very much the old way of doing things. They're very much like the early 2000s and even maybe
Right.
pre-COVID way of doing things. I don't know when it stopped, but it's not what works now.
Right.
And if it does work, it takes a lot more time than I have as a guy starting out with a limited amount of capital before I run out of money and have to go get a job at Fair and Fair.
Right.
Right? So I interviewed, I think my number now, because just for sport, I've interviewed one or two after, I knew I wasn't gonna hire them, but I'm just gonna interview them anyway after I hired you guys. I think my total number is like 10 people.
I
that
could
I've
see you
interviewed.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
After knowing you, I could definitely
Yeah.
see you doing that.
But
yeah.
because there's so much BS in this field of the digital marketing companies, because they're trying to get your business and they don't necessarily know the answers to the questions that you're asking. And the thing that really struck me about Rich is that not only did he know the area of law that we were doing, he also knew the geographic area, and he could tell me, this is going to be your cost for acquisition. You have to do this. You have to call them within this. I mean, it was like you spelled it out for me so clearly. Now, I know from experience, from having told people exactly what to do, and giving them the phone number, your phone number of
Right.
when to call you and do it, and have you do it for them.
Right.
That just because you write it down and tell people doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Sure.
But so there's still another step. But everyone else that I talked to, it was very loosey goosey. It was amorphous. They didn't drill down on anything. And then after we had that conversation, I probably had a handful more.
Right.
And I asked the things that you gave me. I tried to solicit from other people, and they couldn't provide it. The other thing was that you guys were local and we're in the same building, so that was a huge
Right.
added advantage. But yeah, that having those data points was the thing that really said, okay, you know what? He's saying this is gonna work. These are the numbers. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm only losing X number of dollars on it.
Right.
And then it worked. And then to the degree that it didn't work, I quickly realized it was because I wasn't picking up the phone fast enough. And that's when we got hooked up with the company that is doing the calls, and they're picking up the phone and 24/7. They're making outbound calls, and that is catching whatever I'm not catching.
Mhm.
To where now there's a system that exists that performs at a predictable rate, and now we're rolling. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so to me, that was once I saw that it worked after a month or two, and I started getting the cases, and I realized quickly I needed to hire somebody because of the rate that we were doing. At that point, I was like, okay, it is going to work.
Right.
But even then, you still have those moments of doubt, and oh, is this really working? But it does, and it's just a matter of building out that system. But I could see, having done it, I could see there were so many points that I could have still screwed it up. Like if I didn't get LCC, for example, right?
Right.
Which is the call center, then we could. Who knows? I may have half as many cases as I do, right?
Right.
And still think it's working. Maybe it's not as good as Rich said, but it's still working. But never connecting the dots that it's because you don't have anybody pick up the phone or dial an outbound.
Right.
Right? And then it's like, or if I had, let's say I didn't take your numbers as like, you need to put this much in. Let's say I said, I'm just gonna be conservative, I'm gonna cut it in half. Well, now you guys don't have any data, then you know what the hell's going on.
Right.
So it's like, you've gotta kinda take that leap of faith and trust the process from the people, again, like we were saying, where you're gonna get people who are smarter than you guys, internally. Well, it also applies externally with vendors. The whole point is to say, I don't understand how this works, you know how it works, you've explained how it works, you've given me numbers, let's do it, rather than saying, well, no, I mean, this is like the people that I've sent you guys, is like,
Yeah.
well, I can do this myself, I'm gonna do the website myself, I'm gonna do, like,
We've
you
seen that.
can, but it's not gonna work. If you dedicated 80 hours a week for a month, you could probably figure it out to a certain degree, but no one's gonna be able to do that, because they've gotta run their business, which is a totally separate thing.
As a business owner, you should not be doing those
Exactly.
things. Your job is to grow the business and be the leader and to be the strategist. And if you're doing these minor things like building websites and things, I mean, like, it just blows my mind, because we see it all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
constantly.
every day.
Leads are coming in every day for us, and we always do a little research on them to see, what they're doing. And like some of these websites, I'm like, do you really think someone is gonna hire you after going on your website, which it looks like a 10-year-old created? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just silly things like that. So that's what we really liked and respected about you. It was like, we gave you advice and you took it, because we've dealt with hundreds of law firms. Like, we know what we're doing. So same with me. Like, if I'm gonna if I have like a big project and I'm not an expert at it, I will hire someone to do it, because it's my time is valuable, and I know that this person is an expert. They've been doing this. They're gonna do it way better than I do. So why would I not bring that into my business? So that, I would say, like when you were talking about the intake, that's the biggest. That's my pet peeve with law firms, because they all think they have good intake, and they don't. I would say like 20% have good intake.
Not even that much.
Yeah,
Not even
probably
that much.
not even. Yeah, I mean,
Not even
like,
that much.
Honestly, like Rich sees it more than I do, and it's terrible. So they're missing out, especially in personal injury, on potential 6-7 figure cases left and right, because their intake, we'll call them one time, leave a message, and move on.
Yeah.
Right. And
Wait, seriously?
We tell them, listen, we're up to 7 touch points now.
Yeah.
Okay. It went from 3 a few years ago. Now we're up to 7 touch points for you to get anyone to speak to and do an intake.
Yeah.
No one's gonna do that. That's why companies like LCC, 100% worth it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you hire someone, you're still gonna pay them way more, and they're gonna slack. I mean, they just don't, because I mean, we're looking at 90% of the intake is just failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the speed to lead. We always talk about speed to lead. Like, I'm sure all these lawyers have heard speed to lead, but that's how important it is, because they've done studies on it. If you're not calling them within a couple minutes, they're gone.
Yeah.
They are no longer, after 10 minutes, they're a cold lead. I mean, that's just the reality. That's the world we live in now. So you have to call them as soon as possible, because first of all, they're shopping, right?
Right.
They're shopping.
Yeah, it's not a referral. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
Exactly.
referral. This is marketing. Once they have it in their head that, okay, I need a lawyer, they're looking all around. And when depending on what we're using, if it's Google or it's Meta, these algorithms are smart. They know, okay, this person needs a personal injury lawyer. And as soon as they put that lead in, if you don't call them I'm telling you. So we tested some of the big firms, you know, the large ones. And they were calling us in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes less, like literally, you send it and it was instant inside of 15 seconds sometimes.
Yeah, so, I mean that's rare, and this was an in-house team. So I worked at a large firm, and we had a whole intake room. You know, we had a room with like 8 people that just did intake all day long, and they were on it fast. That's how that guy had 2 jets.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean intake. It's really it's a simple formula if people would just listen to us and trust the process. You know, you need an abundance of leads. You need really good fast intake that's aggressive. You know, that they have to keep dialing, keep texting, keep emailing until they get that person on the phone, and we just don't see that. You know, and then you need to be an incredibly good attorney because they're all over the place. You know, people can choose anyone, and you know that was the angle we went with with you. So okay, like people do like solo attorneys because they want that personal experience, right?
Yeah.
Where you know if you're going to go with a Morgan & Morgan, good luck. You're just a number.
Yeah.
You know,
you're getting the junior attorney, you know, based on what the case value, and they're gonna farm it out accordingly. If it's a 15-30 case, it's going to this individual. If it's a little bit bigger, it's going to this one who's got, you know, that experience. But I mean, how many times do these leads think that they're going to speak with John Morgan? You know, they're like, well, why am I not talking to the owner? When when you're doing your consults with them, they're speaking to the owner, and that's, you know, 2026. We in the office we talk about it every day. How you just hate to be put on hold, you hate to be given the runaround, and you hate just to be passed off. And you know, again, you know, not a coincidence. One of the reasons why your firm is so successful is that, you know, they have access to the owner of the firm, and you know, and the one who would, you know, be, you know, potentially litigating their case. And that's, you know, and that's I think another reason why you've seen the success that you have, because you know. Before you and I met, my wife was in a car accident. You know, I've told you, I was like, if I'd known you, I would have just passed her off. Good luck. You would have had her, and that's it. You know, that's it. You would have earned your percentage. I promise you. But you know, rather than go to a big firm, we went to guys we had in Orlando, 2 fantastic attorneys, and when my wife has a question, Wendell, he's one of the partners, he answers the phone.
Yeah, there you go.
And you know, and my wife, God love her, but like she was in pain, so she was in a bad mood, and you know, he walked her through everything. Same thing, you know, like had I known you, like I would have been like, okay, well, Vince is, you know, one of our partners. He's in the same office. I know he's going to take good care of you. We can't say that with one of the large firms. You're rolling the dice. It's a crapshoot.
One of the things that I wonder about is, because obviously the goal is to build it bigger, to scale it, to help more people and everything. At a certain point, and let me back up. The thing that I really enjoy doing is talking to people, helping people, walking them through stuff, explaining things. And I think that is a big stress reliever for people when they have an understanding of what's going on.
Yes.
So even if you could have a terrible case and you could be at fault for the accident, but if someone explains it to you, then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Whereas if you just don't hear anything for 2 weeks, you're getting pissed off because you're not hearing anything.
Yeah.
Whether your case is good or bad. So for me, what I wonder about is to scale it and also maintain those client relationships at a firm level. I don't really know the answer to that yet, but I feel like it's really about having protocols in place where, you know, I know at the larger firms and really every firm, the measure of success is the amount of money you bring in for the firm, which obviously you got to keep the lights on, you got to pay your employees, you got to be in business to help other people and everything like that. But there's got to be a way that you can measure those types of interactions with people and the amount of attention that you give the clients, the happiness and the satisfaction level of the clients in terms of, look, you could give somebody a check for $1 million, and if you were a moron the whole time, they're going to be fundamentally like, they're not going to love that experience. They're not going to, you know, maybe they tell people the amount, but they're not saying how they liked you as a lawyer or whatever.
Right.
And I think people, at the end of the day, they respond to things emotionally where they want to feel that they have a connection with that person or what have you. Like it's like the bedside manner concept with the doctors. Now, having said that, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have good lawyers. You have to be aggressive against insurance companies, because you could be the nicest lawyer in the world, but if you're taking $2,500 or $7,500 on a $10,000 policy, when you should never do that ever, or some kind of silly thing that you're doing, then you're not doing right by your clients either. So I think for me, when I think about scaling, I think a lot about how do I maintain that level of contact with the clients, and the sense that they're getting access to attorneys, to staff, everything as much as they need.
Right.
And we're not keeping tabs and saying, don't talk to this guy or whatever, because I hear it all the time from people who are coming to me from other firms that they can't get a hold of somebody.
Yep.
When they do get a hold of somebody, they're getting lectured about something. They're getting told what to do instead of being heard about how they're feeling, and well, what do you want to do, or what doctor do you want to go to? Rather, well, you got to go here and you got to get this and da da da. And how is that helping people?
Yeah, these people just went through possibly a very catastrophic experience that could change their life, and all they're hearing is numbers from insurance companies and the lawyers, because that's not personal. They're not feeling like anybody cares about them, and you should. This is your client. You should care about them.
Yeah.
They have lives. They possibly have families, kids, everything. This is a person, and as a society altogether, we're kind of just getting away from that. Everybody's getting too greedy. Everybody's just looking at the dollar signs, and
Yeah.
that will, I'm a big believer in karma. That will come back to bite you.
Yeah.
It's you have to. Lawyers have a bad reputation for this, right? Because
For sure.
that's why a lot of people, they talk a lot of trash about lawyers because that's how they feel. They feel like these lawyers just don't care about them, So that's why we actually really like to work with solo firms. There's a lot of digital marketing agencies that just won't do it because there's not enough money in there for it. But like we talk about you all the time, and any other, there's been a couple, Ms. Borum, we changed her life.
Right.
She had nothing, and then she did go against.
She did get the billboard.
She did get the billboard. I
And
don't know
called
what she was
me and
thinking.
said she got 0 calls in 6 months.
Yeah.
0 calls in 6 months with her billboard, and it was on a major artery outside of Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
And there was 0
Yeah.
calls.
It's because
0.
it's a less than 1% recall rate, and a less than 1%. Less than 1% of leads will come from a billboard. So it's just, I don't know.
It's vanity.
It's a vanity thing. People
Yeah.
want to see their face up there. Why are you paying $10,000 to do that?
If I ever get one, it's gonna say Massaro Law. My apologies to Vertical 10.
Well, here's the thing too, and Arash and I've talked about this. I think Vince, we talked about this too. Had a buddy who worked for Clear Channel, and his job was to take people around, the clients around to the billboards, and half the time they weren't even working. So you're paying X number of dollars per month, and you don't know if it's working. Whereas with digital marketing, if you don't know it's working, we're addressing it same hour. Versus I haven't looked at it in 3 weeks. I don't know. So yeah, it's not a show to bash billboards, but I think that was very 1999.
It's over, yeah.
Yeah,
Those
it's
days
very-
are over. My sister, who has 2 dental practices, grew her firm with billboards, but that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And all her billboards are down now, and they're semi-retired, so they don't really need my company to run digital marketing. They're just kind of,
Yeah.
just traveling, whatever. But yeah, they started seeing the decline. It's just not working. It wasn't worth the money. So, but I think we got a little sidetracked from what we were talking about is basically we like to work with solo firms because the right solo firms. Let's just say that.
Yes.
People like you and Ms. Borum and a few others that are fearless. They're ready to jump in. They're not afraid to throw some money out there. Like, this is a business. You're going to have some capital. If you don't have capital, go get a loan. Well, I don't care how you get it. You need money. You cannot start a business without capital. And be ready to possibly have a month or two with digital marketing where you're just like, why, this is not working. Because it takes time. It takes time. If we could just hit a button and put up these ads, and everybody would just be a millionaire if they started working immediately. It takes time for the algorithm to learn. It takes time for us to do our testing, but we pretty much got you started. I would say the first month for some cases, right?
Yeah, first month.
Yeah. So I think it'd be very valuable if you can kind of get into, some numbers, because our podcast, there's a lot of solo attorneys that need help with digital marketing.
Sure.
And they want to hear, especially from someone like you who started, from the ground floor. What kind of, since you started working with us, how have your numbers gone up? What's
definitely.
your cost per acquisition? I can tell you your cost per lead has been very good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these marketing agencies are going to sell you leads for PI for $500 a lead. We got you at $150 a lead, which is crazy, right? So, and you got all the right pieces in place now, and it's just a machine. It's just a machine that just runs, and we manage it. But talk to us a little bit more about scaling and how the amount of cases you're getting, things like that.
Sure, yeah. So, I would say that my cost per acquisition, it's difficult. I have to think for a second, because I've basically taken out the cases with no coverage. So that for my own mind's sake. So, at my previous firms that were a lot of referral based stuff, there's about 20% of your cases that are going to come in the door. They've heard great things about you, or it's through market, whatever. But it's not all digital marketing. It could be various sources.
Right.
About 20% of them, there's no insurance coverage to go after, and that's just a virtue of being in Florida. In terms of our leads, have a much higher percentage of no coverage, but that's okay, because we're casting a wider net, and we're getting things that we just can't do anything with. But by casting a wider net, I'm able to evaluate and see maybe this case has more coverage somewhere. So there was one, for example, where it came in as a 10 BI plus 25 UM. The prior attorney had it for a period of 5 months. They fired that attorney, found me on Facebook, hired me. Well, we found a $250,000 policy in the state of Tennessee, I want to say it was.
I remember you told me about that, yes.
No one researched it, no one looked at it.
That's awesome.
And so that's an example when, even if it came in as a 10 plus 25, that's a good case, okay. But let's just say it didn't come in that way, and it came in even worse. If you're not digging and looking, then you're not gonna find that other one. I had one that a big firm dropped, that we ended up finding $1 million policy on.
Wow.
And that was one of my first cases that I got. So that's the first thing, is that for anyone out there who's doing this, it's okay to sign up a case that you think maybe is not gonna go anywhere if you investigate it and you do a good job investigating it. And you're gonna, most of the time, you're not gonna find anything, but you're still gonna build a relationship with a client.
Right.
And that client is still gonna remember you for the future. I've already had cases like that where I wasn't able to help them, but then either they had another accident or they sent me a case because I would just talk to them for 20 minutes from a Facebook lead, and I explained everything to them, and I investigated it, and it is what it is. But they appreciated that contact. They saved my phone information and everything.
Right.
So, but I would say if you take those out, I would say my cost per case acquisition is somewhere between $3,000 and $3,500. So if you included an average drop rate based on no coverage, then I would say it's closer to that 3,000 number.
Okay.
That's funny, because that's exactly that's where you should be.
Exactly.
If you can get lower, it's amazing, but the average, pretty much nationwide, is 3,000 to 3,500 right now.
Yeah.
In some states, California, New York, it's going to be higher. But yeah, basically right where you need to be.
Right.
So
exactly.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that the only reason it's not better than that is probably because, I have had some issues with in terms of how we're setting up the appointments, and there are certain things that people are getting lost in terms of getting from the call center to me, there's a certain percentage there, call it 5%, something like that, where it's just the connection point is not perfect. So we're working on that. But so to people looking to hire you guys, I would say that it definitely does work. My initial doubt was misplaced, basically. But you have to have, the biggest thing is being willing to spend the money and being willing to investigate the cases. Because what at first may not seem like a good case is just a case that hasn't really been investigated. And it doesn't take, it's not anything crazy, it's just actually doing your job. Imagine that, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's, I mean, he's brought this up like it's just in conversations and, talking, kind of like off the record, so to speak. I can't stress that enough when I'm talking with new firms that, they, like you said, they see it on the surface. It's, they've evaluated everything in 9 minutes and they're like, nope, it's not for me. Whereas, like you were talking, you look at it, you're willing to do, the deeper investigation, and then, like you said, there's a 7-figure policy, there's a 6-figure policy that's, that's there, but it's just, careless, right? I mean, I would assume that's the best word we would use is careless, right? They're not doing their due diligence. They're not, they're not putting in the time and the effort to really look at the case from all angles, and and that's, kind of, we really appreciate the kind words, and on the other side, like, you and your firm, conduct the due diligence, and you guys will look, under every, you guys will look under every rock, every, turn over every stone, and shoot, I wish a lot of our firms did that, because there would be a higher return on their investment and a lower cost per acquisition. So yeah, I mean, that's, anybody that's listening, and you're an attorney, if you're not doing your due diligence, it's on you. Like you said, and it's simple. Hey, just do your job. But that's not always the case.
Yeah, they're discarding clients too quickly, or they're settling too fast. They're not doing justice for their client. They're like, oh, I'll just take that 10 grand and move on. Where that's the exact opposite of what you have to be doing, because your client deserves better. They're just leaving so much money on the table where their client was injured, and they deserve that payout, that settlement.
Right.
I know the majority of cases that don't go to trial. I think it's like less than 5% or something.
It's probably closer to like 1 to 2%.
1 to 2%.
It's that small now.
So it's gotten even worse since COVID. Yeah, especially with the backlog.
But you have to be willing to litigate, because everything changes when you go into court, and you have a different team that gets on the case. The reserves that get set by the insurance company are higher, and you can uncover information about the other side that will help you, because it shows their negligence is potentially even worse. It opens them up to punitive damages, or in a case of a trucking company or commercial business or something, where they're directly negligent because they didn't monitor this guy's driving, and maybe he's driving his own car, but they've got him hooked up on some Life 360 or something, and they're not watching him,
right.
Or they are watching him and not doing anything about it. So you've got to dig in there and figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? And if you have a case and they offer you a whole bunch of money pre-suit, that's probably because you got a really good case, so you should take it into court.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, we had, and we talked about this was a couple of years back, we had a personal injury attorney out of Idaho, and he dealt with trucking and MVAs, and the first week that he was with us, gentleman was driving, you know what I'm about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman was driving, he was behind, a lot of logging up there in Montana and Idaho. Mm-hmm. He was behind a logging truck, and one of those logs came loose from the truck, hit the ground, and then came through his windshield.
Oh, geez.
First week, this was through a Facebook lead. The guy found, we set up the marketing, found him on Facebook, boom, connected him. And this attorney's no longer with us, because he definitely wasn't big picture. And the conversation he and I had was, I can settle right now for 30 grand. Or I know if I take it to trial in 6 to 12 months, it's going to be 10, 15 times that amount. And he said, the guy's not going to be, he's not going to be in a wheelchair for life, but, this is, this happened, I mean, the log came off the truck, it somewhat impaled the guy through his windshield, I mean, and he was like, but he wasn't thinking about the client's best interest. He was thinking, well, if I take the 30 grand, I'm going to get my percentage, and that will get me through another month because I can take this 30 grand offer from the company right now, or I know that if I take it to court, I'm going to get minimum 10x that. And
just go take the paper and show somebody, and they'll give you a loan for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and this was an older gentleman. He wasn't too savvy on some of that stuff. But I mean, he ended up taking the settlement and basically keeping his firm afloat for another month. And his client got shortchanged down of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I mean, it was there was no question over the fault. I mean, it was a log that flew off the truck. Drivers' worst nightmares. I mean, why people don't like to drive behind those trucks, but it happens. And I mean, so we see that we see that type of those law firms that do exist, and that's not somebody that we wish to partner with. And again, why we're so pleased partnering with your firm.
Well, one of the things that helps with having you guys is that the cases are coming, and so you don't feel, at least at this point, I don't feel the same pressure that I felt, what is it, 7-8 months ago now?
Yeah.
Where I don't know if I'm gonna get any case. I don't know where I'm gonna be. I could be at 0 cases, or who knows?
Right.
But the point is, because you see it work and it works, then you're not worried about settling right now, because well, look, I'm still gonna get cases. They're gonna be smaller cases that are gonna turn over more quickly from a business perspective. So this big one, I'm just gonna keep doing what I need to do on it to maximize the value for the client. And I think the other thing that helps too is that obviously you're running a business, and you have to, if you're not in business, you can't help anybody. So, but what we do as lawyers, and I think people really forget this a lot, and it goes against the public perception of it. I always think about this now with AI, about these vocations that are AI proof, but the way that I think about it is, what vocations have been around for a really long time? And lawyer in the modern sense is like a recent concept, and there's a lot more lawyers than there are now today than there were 100 years ago. But fundamentally, what are you? You're a counselor. You advise people, okay? That's never going anywhere. And that, not only is that not going anywhere, but it's a vocation, meaning it's a profession. You have a job, you have a credential, right? You have the credential, you have the job, you have the pay, whatever it is. But it's a vocation. You have to feel like you're called to do this to help people. And it's so easy to forget that, because in the field, there's all of these other influences, and if you're at a firm, there's so many politics involved, and there's all these awards and credentials and self-congratulatory things and all that. But what are you? You're a counselor. It's your vocation to go and advise people and to help them. And the only thing you can do to help them is to get them as much money as possible.
Right.
I'm not a doctor. I would pass out at the sight of blood. Like, the only thing I can do is, you're feeling in pain, okay, go to the doctor, but my job is to get you as much money as possible. That's literally the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna you can't go and, you can, but realistically, you're not gonna prove a point. These insurance companies unless you have a one outlier case, most of the time, it's just business to them. They don't give a crap.
Right.
But it's about, the thing that makes a difference is not gonna be to the insurance company. The difference that you're making is to that client's life. And getting them what they deserve and the most that you can, so that they can at least kind of start to get back to normal in some way and feel like the scales were back in balance a little bit.
Right.
So, what's the next steps for Massaro Law? What are you looking to scale pretty quickly, or do you have like a slow approach to scaling? Are you going to be hiring any attorneys soon?
So I have 2 people now, pre-suit case manager and a litigation paralegal, and they're both great. I need to do my Google pay-per-clicks, and it's been, what was it? It's been like 4 months that we've talked about this.
Yeah, February.
But every time that I am like, okay, I'm gonna send that email, it's like something pops up, or I get a new case, or that I've got some training I have to do. So it's what I'm realizing, and we had this conversation where it was like, there's a risk of almost growing at a rate where you can't sustain it, and I wanna solidify things before I really hit the pedals of the metal, because if I do it too quickly, for example, we're doing some file management stuff with our software, And right now, with our file count, it's not too bad if we have to change something and go in and manually change it on every file. But if I had twice as many files, well, now that's twice as much headache and stuff. So to get it to where it's like, okay, this works, and it works in a way that I probably don't need to change it for another 100 or 200 files, whatever that looks like.
Right.
But yeah, so but the plan is to maintain the Facebook, because that's a working machine, and then add in the other streams of, in terms of the Google and the pay-per-click, and also doing video content that we had talked about, and just continuing to experiment with new digital marketing campaigns.
Yeah. And we just started doing SEO for you, so
Right.
at some point that's going to start bringing in a lot of organic leads. So your cost per acquisition is going to go down quite a bit once the organic leads come in, because
For sure.
you're not paying $3,500 for each one of those.
And I should have said with the numbers that I'm giving you, that's just Facebook. So
Yeah.
I have gotten cases through the map pack.
You have, okay,
Uh-huh.
perfect. Yeah.
So I didn't include those in my numbers or whatever, but.
Yeah, well, our firm is, our agency is really trying to stay on top of the AI thing, because,
Mhm.
that is 100%, it's not going anywhere, this is the future. So, we actually built an entire platform to make sure AI is crawling the content that we're putting out in the right way, and we have a table of contents for every article, things like that. So we're not going to get left behind. I told Rich I'm going to be an AI master.
Yeah.
You
got to, man.
It's just something. Well, I think that's the difference between people that will and won't have a job in the future. Is, can you embrace AI and make your job more efficient? Make yourself efficient. Just that's what companies want. They want efficiency. And the competition. They want to beat the competition to the next thing. And so it's getting to the point where if you're not using AI in some fashion, you're going to get left behind.
100%.
So we're definitely using AI. I don't know if you're using any software that's helping you as far as AI, because there's a lot of legal software. I mean, it's in my book.
Yeah. I'm testing out some stuff now. I haven't really made a decision on one particular one, but I mean, I'll use ChatGPT for things like, let's say I've got to send an email and it's this adjuster is making me angry, whatever, and I'll just kind of yell at the AI, be like, this damn adjuster, like, tell him this is bullshit and da-da-da-da, and I'll kind of ramble for a few minutes, and then at the end I'll say, okay, make this professional.
Yeah, clean it up.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And then
Yep.
it comes out with the nicest email that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
great,
unreal.
copy and paste that. But there's a lot of time spent in those little drafting things, for example, where you're making, I make all the punctuation, or I typed this, it was all caps and gotta go back, or, I don't really wanna say that. And when you have it in 5 seconds with AI, you're looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, I'll just take that sentence out, but you have an immediate product that you can evaluate instead of having to come up with everything from scratch every time, right? It's very useful for that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that we do that is not really law related. So there's obviously tools that for legal research and things like that, but as an experienced lawyer, you have a kind of a bank of that information internally, and also, in resources that you can pull from. So I'm not seeing myself use it in that sense, but it's really just for these communication type things where it's tedious. You got to send an email, you got to write a letter, it's got to be nice, it's got to hit some bullet points, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the bigger firms are jumping on the software, because some of them are just the expenses. You can't justify the expense just yet until you have more employees and just a bigger firm all around. But
the problem I have with the biggest time suck with that AI says it's going to help is the medical records summaries. So there's a couple of platforms that you put everything in, they're HIPAA compliant, and they process and summarize everything. But what I've found is that they're not perfect. Nothing's perfect.
Mhm.
But that 2% error rate or 5% error rate in a personal injury case is enough to totally screw up your case if you don't watch it. And I think that if you use it, if you rely on it too much, and if you're not putting eyes on every page for those medical records, or eyes on every page for the discovery, you're rolling the dice a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like it should be like a combined effort with the AI and a person. You know, a lot of it's not there yet to just completely replace people. It is in some things, like, you know, obviously no one needs a copywriter anymore.
No.
But I remember medical records was a big thing, because the firm I worked at, man, there's time spent to go through some, and like you know, I was part of, I was an IT engineer / admin, and then I moved into the role of marketing also, kind of by accident, just because I was doing it on the side. But to go through these thousands of pages is just unreal. You know, just to find, you know, little keywords here and there. You know, so I'm sure that, you know, because, you know, I've been long gone since you know, when I left, AI wasn't a thing. So I'm sure there's got to be some great improvements to go through that tedious process. You know?
It's definitely gotten better in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I've been demoing it pretty consistently.
Yeah. That was a big thing. So I was thinking, in as far as, you know, my company and smaller companies, when it comes to scaling, it really is, you know, it's a tough one. You know, there's a fine line between, you know, because I do believe in the concept of, if you're not growing, you're dying when it comes to business. You know, I really do, because if you're just sitting there and you're just hoping for a referral, and you're hoping maybe, I mean, the hope and pray method's not gonna. You need to actively be trying to grow, and if you're not growing, your competition is, and you're going to be gone. So that's why there's such a ridiculous failure rate for businesses in the first 5 years. It's like 80% or something like that. But at the same time, I can say from experience of working at the firm, which I'm not going to mention, for 16 years, they grew too fast. So they went from, you know, 2 guys, you know, to 50 attorneys, 8 offices, all around the country, 350 employees.
Oh, wow.
Became a very large firm. You know, like I said, he had 3 planes at one point. I got to fly on one of them several times, which was amazing. So, anyways, I can tell you right now, it's just one attorney and 5 people now.
Yeah.
So the empire collapsed.
How fast did that grow to that? Was it like a few years, or 10 years, or how long did it take to get?
The growth, I would say they grew a little too quick for that many people. You know, maybe it was like 5 years or so. Because by the time I came on, like, it was just in scale mode.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it collapsed just as fast.
It collapsed faster.
I would say faster.
Yeah, it collapsed faster.
I read an article once, or I think it was in a book. I've read hundreds of books, so I forget where some of my information comes from, but I think I read in a book that when it comes to law firms specifically, they don't, like, slowly die. Like, all of a sudden, they just collapse. I don't really know the reason for that.
Thanks, Arash. I won't be thinking about it.
I'll keep them sleeping well at night. Yeah.
Hey, we're here for you, man. We're gonna make sure that doesn't happen, right?
It's like tomorrow morning, your firm could just not be there anymore, bro.
So I don't, you know, I don't, you know, I've never run a law firm, but I have a lot of experience in law firms, and I would just say the biggest issue. Well, first of all, there was no. I'll tell you something ridiculous when I was there. That I asked them multiple times. I was like, "Why are we not running digital ads or doing SEO or anything?" Right? And they're just like, "I don't know. We're doing great with these newspaper ads."
Wow.
I was like,
how old are you, Arash?
I'm older than I look.
I remember newspapers.
People think I'm in my 30s. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm almost 50. But anyways, Yeah, it was. I was like, I literally thought the CIO was kidding. I was like, you're running ads in newspapers. They're like, yeah. So I did some digging, and I was like, well, what's your cost per lead? Like, how many leads you getting when you
Sure.
you know? So they're spending like $5,000 to run an ad in a newspaper, and they were getting like 2 leads.
Wow.
You know, I was like, this is insane. So I took over. Well, there was another guy they hired. He didn't know what he was doing. I could tell, because I was like, let me take over these ads just to look at it. And he didn't get any leads for like the 2 months he was there. I took over and spent the same amount, about 5,000, and got hundreds of leads, right? So all of a sudden, like, they woke up, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But they didn't listen. They didn't listen. I was like, listen, like, this is the process. You have to do this, do that, and then they took me off the ads, and they put some amateur on it.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like, well, we need you for this. You're more valuable for this. I was like, I enjoy doing this. Let me just do this. You know? No, they put someone who has no experience on it, and of course it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, when you're managing ads like this, it's a constant process. That if you haven't been doing it for years, they don't. Someone that just comes in, they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's not. It's not a cookie cutter process. You know. You really have to dig into the metrics and the analytics and things like that. So anyways, I would say, you know, you have to never stop running ads, and your internal processes have to be spot on. You know, and employees. We started hiring employees that were just awful. You know, I don't want to, you know, point fingers at.
I already knew where this is going. Don't alienate a third of the audience. Here we go. Let's I already know where this is
There's
going.
a specific group of people, let's just say, that are very similar.
This is an age group, everybody.
Yes,
this is an age group. Well,
so
yeah,
they were on the rise of coming to the job market, and they were very entitled and think.
I can hear the clicks of people. We need 5-star reviews.
It's okay. It's okay.
We need 5-star reviews.
I've heard they've made a turnaround and realized that the real world is not like they
Doesn't revolve around every little crying episode that they have every day.
Exactly.
Yes. So
yeah, these people were coming in every 3 months. There's another one. So like it was terrible. Like when you have that kind of turnaround, you are gonna,
Game over.
It's done. You're done. You can't afford that kind of turnaround.
Well, yeah, and think about it too with the law firms. Okay, PI, family criminal, just for example, estate planning. You don't have monthly recurring revenue. So when your case is paid out, it's paid out. When the family law retainer, it's been paid out, and you've settled the case. When the DUI case has been paid out, you don't have them paying, in July. They've already paid. So you have to keep replenishing that client list. Otherwise, like you said, you wake up August 1st and you're like, well, everybody's paid. I don't have any new clients, so there's no new monthly recurring revenue coming in. There's no revenue coming in, period. Yeah. It's over. And that's where the marketing piece comes in, where it's like you said, I know, okay, there may be a slow month or a slow, 4 or 5 weeks, but I know that, I'm doing everything right. My team's doing everything right. And, in 3 and 6 month snapshots, it's going to be a very profitable, business venture versus, if you have 10 family law cases and all 10 of them pay the retainer, and then you have nobody, coming up to fill those spots, it's over, right? I mean, you can't just be like, well, I had all 10 of those. The bank doesn't care. Your mortgage doesn't care that you had, 10 clients in January, but now you have nothing in June. So I think that's a big reason why we see those firms just, overnight collapse, because they don't have that monthly recurring revenue. They have to have those new clients month after month after month.
Yeah, and they're not putting the money. I mean, obviously, like we had some huge settlements.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a new Rolls Royce and
a third plane.
There's a third plane.
Yeah.
There's another $4 or $5 million house. So I think they're getting a little ahead of themselves there.
I mean, my thing is, I drive a Toyota Camry, so somebody was telling me, oh, you're gonna get a new car. I said, man, if I can, as soon as I make money, I'm putting into more Facebook ads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
That's the smart thing to do. Yeah. I mean, that's the growth mindset. That's the smart mindset. I would say that's what makes you different from most lawyers. You have a business savvy, which they don't teach that in law school, right? That's something you just got to figure out on your own, and most lawyers don't have it. You know, I mean, and the thing is, like, you know, we talk about the family. Yeah, they're getting recurring revenue, but what are we seeing every day? The biggest issue is these people don't have the money for these $10,000 retainers.
Right.
You know, so that is the advantage of being a personal injury lawyer. Like, they don't have to have any money. You know, they just have to have a case, right? But you have to have the money to be able to bankroll this case, basically.
Yep.
You know,
And you got to be able to float for the time.
you gotta
Right.
float for, you know, who knows how long.
And that
you
goes
know?
back to what we were saying with the attorney in the trucking case.
Yeah.
He couldn't float, you know, a potential 6-figure plus case, and takes his 30 grand and
If you have any other lawyers who suffer that, I'll give them a loan.
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't have the money. I'll get a loan.
You'll figure it out. Yeah,
I'll get
exactly.
the loan.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
free money, you know, it's gonna come at some point, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it was just, he wasn't willing to wait the 12 months or so, 12 months
Wow.
for it to go. And I mean, it was a winner. I mean, there was no doubt. There was no question
Typically,
to it.
a log coming in through
To the front windshield.
that tends to, they tend to pay on those.
That's
Yeah.
that's a winner.
The impaled driver.
Yeah.
Oh.
case.
And he was, and yeah, I mean, that was, and that was week one of marketing with us. And he was complaining after that. He was like, well, I've only gotten a couple of big cases this month. And we're like,
What I'm hearing is you've gotten a couple of vacations.
yeah. And he was like, well, I need more. And I was like, okay, well, you're only spending X number of dollars. So, the more you spend, the more you're going to have a footprint. And he was like, well, he's like, I don't have the resources to spend X number of dollars. I was like, for what you're spending and versus what you're getting, it's incredible. But I mean, he couldn't see the forest through the trees.
There's a big leap of faith that you have to take, and I think that it took me quite a while before I started my own practice. I knew that I was gonna do it, but it took me years, I think, to mentally prepare for the amount of, it's not even that, in retrospect, it's not that much money, but to be able to spend that money with the understanding and the fear that you're not gonna get it back.
Right.
And because there's certain marketing things that you may do that you don't get any money back, right? And that's just part of it. But yeah, it just takes it's a big mental hurdle to get over. And even if you have proof of concept, even if like you sit down and you write it out for people, which you guys do,
Right.
it doesn't mean they're gonna do it. And
Right.
so.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the fear, and being fearless and being willing to, being risk averse, and being able to, to say, hey, I gotta sacrifice something to get to the end goal of what I want. I mean, that's what you did when you started Vertical 10.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what you'll do with my paycheck next month, because I mean, we're just hearing how amazing I am. So, it may not be the new Lamborghini in the driveway for Arash, but let's kick a little bit more this way. But I know we've run over a little bit. We do like to wrap up every episode with some words of wisdom, and kind of like what Arash was saying before, we do have quite a bit of law school students who listen to the podcast, and you as an experienced as a seasoned attorney, and then as well as attorneys who are branching out on their own that are listening. Can you just take a couple of minutes and just talk about some lessons that you learned, some things that worked, some things that you tried and you didn't see the results as quickly or as efficiently as you hoped, but just kind of maybe for just a couple of minutes as we wrap everything up, because I know we kind of went over a little bit and you've been
Sure.
incredible with your time. Just kind of, just talk about some of the lessons you've learned and what maybe you would have told Vincent at the age of 24, 26,
Yeah,
28,
definitely.
from, kind of sharing that with our audience.
So the law school, you were saying this before, the law school thing really is interesting to me. Because I was saying earlier how they don't really teach you how to be a lawyer in law school. They teach you, how to write and be really versed in the law, but the people are not necessarily the types of lawyers that you want to be, right?
Okay.
Professors are not necessarily the type. Maybe they make a great judge, they make a great professor, but they don't make the good lawyer that you want to be in the community, right? But I think that to the law student, I would say, when you're in law school, it looks like everybody's playing the same game. Everyone's trying to get the best grade, because then they get the best interviews and then they get the best jobs. And somehow everyone collectively hallucinates that this is the best path for them, right? What no one taught me, and I had to figure it out years later, is that everyone's actually playing their own game, but you don't realize it at the time. And the sooner those people realize it, the better off they are, because they're not worried about, oh, I didn't get this grade or I didn't get this job, because it's not about getting the law school diploma. It's not about passing the bar. It's about how are you going to make an impact 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And everyone has a different path. Some people want to be this type of lawyer or that type of lawyer, or some people think, I want to be an environmental lawyer and help the baby seals.
Right.
Come to find out, they end up being a criminal defense lawyer, something completely different. But there's all this expectation and pride in law school that you kind of know what you want to do. You want to do this thing and you want to be the best at it, but you haven't really been exposed to enough to know what you're going for. So I would say just be open to the fact that you don't have to play by everybody's game, and everyone has a little scorecard. You know what I mean? Whether it's, oh, I made the best comment in class today, or I got the best grade in this class, or whatever. 5, 10, 15 years later, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that vision forward to say, what do I really want to do? And the thing that I could say about myself is I always knew I wanted to make some kind of difference in terms of helping real people, individual people. I didn't have an aspiration of, I'm going to argue a case in front of the Supreme Court, and not to say that doesn't help real people, but you don't have that direct interaction, right? It's like there's different things in law where some people deal heavily with the law itself, right? Some people deal heavily, and that's like your free speech lawyer, constitutional lawyer, something like that.
Right.
You're dealing with the law and the way it's interpreted. Some people deal heavily with facts and factual disputes, where you're a criminal attorney. You're saying this person did this, and I'm going to cross-examine this police officer in order to, so my client is, found not guilty. But it's very fact-dependent. And what I do, I feel like, is very people-dependent. It's people-driven. And so you have to know what you want to do on a daily basis and what you enjoy,
Right.
Because it's not all created equal in the profession. So yeah, I would say just think in those terms rather than just trying to fill out the scorecard that somebody else wrote up that you didn't.
Yeah.
You have nothing to do with.
No, I like that a lot.
100%, yeah, well put.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, well, again, incredibly generous with your time. We'd love to have you back on. We'd love to have you on as a regular guest.
Thanks, guys.
It's definitely convenient. I think the insights you brought today have just been outstanding. And we're grateful to have you not only as a partner on the marketing side, but just to know you on a personal level and to be able to see you guys and your team every day. And it's just been a fantastic overall experience, and we're glad that things are working well. And as I've told you 100 times, when you blow up and get super big, don't forget the little guys who's helped you. But yeah, that wraps everything up. Arash, anything to add before we shut down?
Not much. Just want to thank Vincent again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. This was a great podcast, and I think it's going to be very valuable to our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Vince.
All right, take care,
Thanks,
guys.
Vince.
Thanks. And then hit pause. I want to run the first one over real quick. I stuttered on that first paragraph.
Okay.
I just want to run it over. So just take a second.
Ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1. We're back and better than ever. Welcome to the Next Level Law Podcast. I'm Richard Perillo, and I'm joined as always with Arash Eskandari. This week's guest is Vincent Massaro. Vincent is a personal injury attorney from Newport Richey, Florida. He handles cases across the state of Florida, and today's episode is sponsored by Vertical 10. Vertical 10 helps law firms scale by building and managing high-performing digital marketing campaigns, from SEO and Google ads to meta advertising. Vertical 10 helps turn online visibility into a steady stream of signed clients. Visit vertical10.com for more information. That's vertical10.com for more information on how to scale your business today. If you enjoy the podcast, please follow and subscribe on all major platforms: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. Rate us 5 stars. Dropping a 1 or 2 sentence review really helps with Apple and Spotify, and we really appreciate the support of our listeners. There we go. All right.
All right, sweet.
Awesome, man. Hopefully you want to come back, man. Hopefully you want to come back. This has been
I
fantastic.
didn't say anything like weird or anything.
Nothing. No. God, no.
Everything turned out perfect.
No. This is fantastic.
I got into that metaphor about dating, and I'm like, well, I got to get out of this one.
No, it's fine.
No, that's
No,
real.
that's what everybody likes.
People like the real
Yeah.
stuff, not just like too buttoned up.
Right. Dude, so at some point, and I didn't stop to say this, but at some point I was looking at this and I'm like, doesn't that look more like a mic?
Oh, did you have the? No,
No, it's fine.
no, it's fine.
No, you're fine.
But is it? But doesn't
It does look more like a
Yeah.
mic,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's,
it's this way. Yeah, it is that way.
yours wasn't as crisp as ours. But I mean, I put it up as high as it goes.
I think it's. I mean, I heard him fine on my headphones, so
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any issues with it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's software and stuff. That
yeah.
I've
make me
done-
sound like 2 octaves lower.
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants the deeper voice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think mine's.
but yeah, no, I appreciate you jumping over with a little bit because I know we were
Oh, you're
want to be
fine,
done
yeah.
by 4, but well, I mean, I think it was just flowing really well, and the insight was
Yeah.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's true, man. I mean, anybody that you need me to talk to, like that, who's on the fence or whatever, like I'm happy to talk to them.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean,
And I need to run my numbers again because I'm kind of ballparking that $3,000 thing. I have it. I just didn't.
well, I'm glad to